Welcome to another episode of Mental Conversations, a podcast focusing on positive mental health and overcoming the struggles of life. My name's Chris Sutton, and today I'm delighted to say I've been joined in our Leeds studio by Lucille. How do I say your name?
Lucille Allen-Paisant.
See, it just sounds better when you say it. So Lucille's the founder of Leeds Wellbeing Week and the director of Minded, which is bringing wellbeing to the workplace. And you're also 7 months pregnant?
Yeah.
And you've dragged yourself into Leeds at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. So thank you very much for coming in.
Sure, always in to talk about well-being.
Yeah, excellent. And congratulations on the baby.
Thank you.
So where did we meet? What was that event we met at?
We met last summer, didn't we? At this event in Chapel Allerton.
Mm-hmm. And it was essentially around well-being in the workplace.
Yeah, definitely around well-being in the workplace. And I remember getting in touch with you after your testimonial of your own experience.
Yeah.
And I found that it was actually something that was missing, just kind of positive outcomes out of mental health issues.
Yeah, it was a decent event, wasn't it? It was good to get people talking about it, to understand what impact focusing on well-being can have to businesses and also to the individuals. So we've met with each other a few times, but a couple of weeks ago we met to talk about what we would discuss on this podcast.
Indeed.
And you said to me straight away, I said, we can, I can ramble about anything, but so what do you want to talk about? And you said burnout.
Yes.
That was so straight away that was what you went to. So can you tell me a little bit about that and why that was your first thing?
Sure. Well, why burnout? For me, it's a very personal topic because when I arrived in Leeds a year and a half ago, I was just working myself to burnout. I was marketing director of a small business in Paris, working long hours, passionate about my job, but just never stopping really.
Right.
And then my husband got a job opportunity in Leeds, so I quit my job and we just made it a new life. And actually getting this opportunity to think made me realize that actually I was not on a good path.
That is a massive change.
Yeah.
So how was that mentally?
Challenging.
Yeah.
I was the kind of I called myself the happy fool.
Okay.
Because I was very excited coming to Leeds and changing life and having, the kind of nothing to expect, but everything that would be possible. So I had many ideas and very into it. And then I arrived here. My husband started working, obviously, and I didn't know anyone. I had no job, and I was just in an empty house.
Blank canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was difficult at the time, but I think one of the best things that actually happened, because it gave me this luxury of time to be able to think and figure out what I wanted to do next.
Yeah.
And this is how I came up with this business idea of bringing well-being into the workplace to prevent burnout from happening, actually.
And so that was like born out of the fact that you felt you were burning out in Paris?
Plus the fact that both of my parents suffered from work-related mental health issues when I was young.
Right.
So my dad from depression and my mum from burnout several times.
Okay.
And obviously I knew what it was and I could name it: depression, burnout, work-related. But in this time, I just realized the consequences that it had on our family, on the social life, on the health, mental and physical health.
Big motivator.
Yeah, big motivator, just to just raise awareness of what's going on, and just make people realize that this is not normal. You should probably spot the sign before it happens.
You know what I love about it, genuinely, is that so I'm quite involved now in lots of different aspects of mental health around the city and get invited to talk at events and things. But it's all based on my own experience.
Right.
I'm not a trained psychologist.
Yeah.
I'm not like a psychiatrist. I don't have a certificate on the wall or anything like that. But I'm able to help people through my own story and through my own experiences. And I may have said this on my podcast previously, and I'm sure I'll say it again, but the thing I love about that is the safety net I have is I can't be wrong, because I'm just basing it on my own experience, and I'm saying this is what's happened with me, and I've noticed actually perhaps this happens to a lot of other people, and it's not a good thing to be doing. So maybe there's a different way of approaching it. But you coming from a highly intensive environment in Paris to coming to having like a blank canvas, to some people that would be terrifying as well.
Yeah. I was very excited and scared at the same time. Like now with the baby, actually.
Yes.
It's a new life. It's a big change. So obviously you have both. Well, I had and still have both at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to make it an opportunity. And what happens with burnout often is that you are off sick for a few weeks or a few months. But you need to recover because your body is so tired, which is actually one of the signs. We might discuss it in this podcast as well. I'll just put all the signs before. But your body is so tired that you need some time off. You can't think, you can't do much.
Yes.
But you need that to then be able to...
So there's a lot of there's a lot in there. The first thing I've just got to... I'm a nightmare for this. If I've got something in my head, it's got to come out. To some people listening to the very beginning of this around you moved from Paris to Leeds to find happiness, that's quite a nonsensical statement.
That's true.
Like,
I get that a lot.
I love Leeds, but it just sounds funny, like that I went to Leeds to find happiness from Paris.
Think about Paris as London.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the romanticised idea from an English perspective, very stereotypically, coming with a French accent as well.
Yeah.
Is like, it just sounds funny.
The thing is that when you live in such a big city, you don't get to experience the romantical side of it.
Wow, we could do a podcast about that. just that, couldn't we? Yeah. Misconceptions.
Yeah, and you just run all the time. And in Leeds, what I love about Leeds is that you get a balance. Mm-hmm. You have the dynamics of the city, many things happening, but at the same time you can drive 10 minutes and you're in the countryside.
Yeah.
So you have the right setup to have a more balanced life.
It's a fantastic city, actually. Yeah. It's really well, So you come to Leeds, but the blank canvas. The other thing you said there that really interested me was, much like the baby, you're saying, so you've got that mixture of excitement and anxiety, I suppose.
Yeah.
Do you think you were born with that, or is that something you've developed? What I'm asking, I suppose, is that my life's quite often overwhelmed with anxiety, and I really have to kind of drag excitement into it.
Right.
It's mostly fueled with anxiety, and so when I heard you say, well, I have that like mixture of the two, I was thinking, you lucky thing. But obviously you only you experience your world. But so I'm interested, is it something that you think is possible to generate to excitement, or are you naturally like that?
I was a very, very anxious child.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew up with all the things that happened in life, I think teenage time was kind of more anxiety, so it was building up. And then when I started being self-confident in my 20s, the excitement took over.
Okay.
And I got the opportunity to kind of turn it upside down, saying, well, I just made crazy choices, like going for 3 months to Cameroon in 2010 on my own.
Wow.
Working for an NGO.
Amazing.
Obviously, the excitement was very, very high. And then when I was in the airplane, the anxiety took over, being like, what have I done?
Yeah. You're quite an impulsive person then.
I'm very active. Maybe impulsive would be another word to describe.
That's great. That is fantastic.
But it's like, I kind of flipped it around when I started being self-confident and experiencing things that I had decided to.
And what do you? I know this wasn't what we said the podcast was going to be about, but I'm just really interested. and I think other people will can benefit from it, from personal experience. Were you ever able to, or have you ever been able to identify how you grew your self-confidence then?
I was in a business school in Paris at the time, already in Paris actually, and I remember it quite clearly. I had a boyfriend at the time that lived in Brittany, where I come from, and he traveled to New Zealand. So we started having like a long distance relationship, kind of. And then we broke up, and I remember like when we broke up, I was like, "This is it. I'm just going to enjoy my life."
So that's a proper
that's a
catalyst.
Yeah, that's
Tell you what, that is a long distance relationship. That's about as long as it gets, isn't it?
That's the opposite. Yeah, the complete opposite of the globe, actually.
Yeah,
so
that
you
is
can't get further.
Yeah, wow, that is the definition of a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
So that's interesting though, because it's similar to. I think the thing that it reminded me of is if someone has like a near-death experience or something, and then they say it's like the rest of their life, they feel like, well, I'm lucky to be here. Kind of thing. I know a relationship breakup's not necessarily life and death.
Probably not that far.
But it's a jolt, isn't it?
It was like a pretty, very like set up moment.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, this is.
So essentially, that I've just got to wait for one of them.
Maybe I think it's a whole process as well, because obviously it's just not this breakup decision, it's everything that I had experienced before, and then the building up of confidence and everything. But what worked is finding projects that I was very excited about, and not having the burden of having to do what other people would like me to do.
Well, you saying about coming to Leeds and then starting off on your own, you're making your own decisions there. So it's almost like that to me would be a really interesting experiment if I were to do that, because it would be interesting to see if I went down like a negative route and ended up doing something I didn't really want, to see actually, do I put obstacles in my own way? Is that my natural way in life, that I look for things and go, yeah, well, I like a struggle, or whether you kind of go shoot for the stars kind of thing. Because the work you're doing now is sensational, the Wellbeing Week and the things you do. And I'd like to talk a bit about that. But in terms of burnout, just so that people are aware, the other things that what is it? Can you describe what burnout is?
Burnout to me is when your body just can't do anything that your mind would like it to do.
So like, is it like what we'd call a nervous breakdown then?
There are two names that describe the pretty similar thing. Okay. I think nervous breakdown was more kind of accepted in the UK. There was, you've had a nervous breakdown, was something that was not that big. Yeah. And burnout is something that seems bigger. Yeah. However, the symptoms are quite the same. And other people I have talked with about burnout, there's one morning where they can't wake up, can't go to work, or can't or arrive at work but can't turn on the computer. Okay. And that's what happened to my mom, actually. She just fell on the floor.
And physically
fell on the floor. And the other people I talk about is the same, that physically you can't do it anymore. Wow. Even though your mind is into this wheel where you have responsibilities and you just can't stop. You have to go, you have to do it. Often these people go to their GPs and they ask for 3 days off just to rest. Yeah. And the GPs are like,
it sounds familiar.
Please take 3 months. Yeah. And often, more often than not, it seems impossible in the world of these people because of the high level of responsibilities that we have taken on ourselves. Yeah. But that's what you need, because your body just can't function at all.
That's really okay. So that's
how I would sum it up. The body can't go on.
That's really helpful, because I think that a lot of people listening to this will, may have been thinking, what's burnout? What does that actually mean? So I think that's crystallized it really well. So one of the prompts that I've put here for myself is, so what are the symptoms? So you've said, the interesting thing there is, it feels like, unless I've missed a few words you've said, most of the things are physical.
Yes.
So we talk about mental health, and we often talk about the, well-being is around, the connection between physical and mental health, and the fact that they are in some respects like one in the same thing. So for example, when I was asked, I was doing a talk and I was asked, can you describe what it feels like when you're depressed? And I'm quite open about my mental health. And there was a room of about 60 people. In fact, they were all lawyers. They were all solicitors and lawyers. It was quite intimidating. And I got quite upset. And I didn't actually start crying,
Right.
but I was getting choked up describing it, which I wasn't expecting. But what I remember was feeling in pain. I remember a physical pain everywhere.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, and I remember there's a counsellor, or I've seen so many different counsellors and things, I couldn't even tell you who it was. But I remember someone saying, well, describe the pain. And I couldn't really describe it. It was like just everywhere. And they were like, yeah, but is it a dull pain or a sharp pain? I was like, it just hurts. Everything hurts. Just being here hurts, So with burnout, I think there's probably similarities there with the fact that something that's going on psychologically, mentally,
Of course.
your body is the thing that then physically tells you, it's screaming out, you need to do something here, you need to, I need an intervention.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah.
Your body's just telling you to stop.
And your mum actually collapsing.
Yeah. She literally fell on the floor, and it's quite interesting and scary at the same time, because we just put all this pressure on us all the time. So the mind is, I keep going, I need to keep going, and this is true for employees as well as entrepreneurs. So we were talking before about how making my own decision makes me less anxious. Not all the time, actually.
Well, no.
So the excitement of having your own business can actually be very, very stressful.
Yeah.
And bringing a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
So it's you need to find the balance and your coping mechanism to make it work for yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the symptoms of burnout, it's definitely physical, but it comes from a mental, overwhelming feeling.
So this is really helpful stuff. So I'm thinking, if we were to say to people, look out for these symptoms. So I'm thinking feeling tired, lack of concentration, not being able to focus.
There are the symptoms of stress and anxiety overall. Not being able to sleep, having like dark thoughts, or the thoughts that would just go round and you would not be able to find a solution.
Okay.
But I would add to it that with burnout, you have the feeling that you're indispensable. That if you don't make it to work today, your company or your business is not going to go on.
This all sounds very familiar.
Yeah, and it might sound familiar to many people actually. If you have this feeling that the world is not going to run, or
it's not going to turn around.
If you don't wake up today, it means that you're probably on the path of burning yourself out.
Genuinely, that's a lot of people. I think that's a lot of people. And I'm not saying everyone's is going to reach that point of burnout, but there's probably like a sliding scale, isn't there, of people that and it's where you are on that path that you don't really want to be on. So that's a really helpful description. One of the things that we talked about previously was what you can do about it if you are reaching that point. And then the other thing is what you can do to prevent it. And I don't know, they might be the same things. Or they might certainly have similarities.
Yeah, I usually like to talk about coping mechanism because
Okay.
they're just kind of your ways, and everyone has his own ways to overcome stress and anxiety in the first place,
Okay.
and then by extension to prevent burnout from happening.
Yeah.
So these can be yoga, meditation, going for a walk, taking a lunch break, which is not a given for
Yeah. No,
everybody.
loads of people don't do that.
Especially in the UK. I think in France we do take lunch break.
Yeah.
We don't drink wine during lunch breaks. This cliche is
You're
not
breaking
true.
all these
This
stereotypes.
cliche
It's
is
not
not
fair.
true. But we do take time off.
I was disappointed you haven't walked in with a stripy top with onions around your neck.
Oh, sorry. I will think
And
about it next time.
Where's your bloody beret, for goodness sake?
Where's my baguette?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So yeah, there's everyone has a coping mechanism. What you need to be careful of is the healthy coping mechanism versus the unhealthy one. When I was in Paris, the company I was working for was work hard, play hard,
Right.
which is you work long hours and then you go for a drink or 2 or 3 or 4
Yeah.
every week.
Mm-hmm.
Not every day, but every day out of 2, I would say.
Really?
1 day out
Okay.
of 2. So very, very common thing to just drink alcohol in the evening. And it was a coping mechanism because of the high stress level. The way to kind of break down and be able to sleep
Yeah.
was to drink alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
which is an unhealthy one. And you have other ones, obviously, social networks, any type of addiction, TV, which is like
Yeah.
brain
Switching off.
offloading
Yeah.
of the brain. But you can have healthy ones, like finding time for yourself, making sure that you have time daily to do what makes you happy.
Mhm.
Just going for a walk with a dog,
Yeah.
having a nice lunch, chatting with a friend. These are the type of thing that can actually help you to cope with a level of stress. And if you make sure that you have it daily, or at least every 2 days, you would have something that you would be satisfied with at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
It's interesting because, and I've talked about this with Nicola that I do the podcast with previously, how at work people have business plans and you'll have action plans, and people will even have appraisals and one-to-one sessions with their managers.
True.
Where they set individual goals for how they're going to achieve them and even how they're going to develop professionally, and then rarely do people seem to do that when they're at home, about their home life.
Yeah.
So I've recently been doing a diary that was set for me. There's a friend of mine who's doing a course and he needed a guinea pig to go and kind of do this for his coursework. And I actually function better if I've got someone to talk to about my mental health. And so he's become like this counsellor kind of person. But he's got me doing this diary of it's how many hours did you sleep and was it unbroken?
I see.
What were your energy levels, and then how were you feeling mentally, physically and emotionally, and then that repeats 3 times, so the morning, afternoon and evening.
Wow.
And it also has what did you eat during the day. And you can't, he said, try not to analyse it until we meet next time.
How long are you doing it for?
Well, I've done it for 2 weeks now.
Okay.
And it's quite intense to do that. Because it's like, I've got to fill in that spreadsheet.
Yeah, and you need to think, to be mindful of everything.
And he was saying to me, don't, try not to go into it thinking, well, if I write that, then I'll be able to, basically don't cheat in terms of, he was saying, don't try and work out what you want the outcome to be and fill in the boxes accordingly. Just sit there and go, how am I feeling emotionally? And then why? There's a free text box to put in what was happening, so you can put it in context. So I was really stressed. I was taking my kids to the zoo. You see, I was stressed, but I was really happy and I was really excited. But we had to go on the bus, so I was like, what happened? 2 children, little children on the bus on my own. So putting it into that context was, there was a bit of narrative space there. But when my job now for the next 2-week period is to have a look at that and identify, he was talking about identifying like spiral patterns,
Okay.
spirals going downwards kind of thing, where he said, so is there a pattern there, for example, where you've only slept for 3 hours and then the next morning your energy level was low and you had 3 slices of pizza at lunchtime,
Right.
and then loads of coffee, or, you know, is there like a knock-on effect here because of one aspect? And if you realise, and if you can realise yourself rather than just being told, actually sleep is massive for me, for example.
Sleep is massive for everyone.
Yeah, but people don't necessarily realise it.
No, it's the most underrated health habit.
Yeah,
to be
right,
fair.
okay.
That's
I like that. The most underrated
I read
health
it
habit.
somewhere, and since
that.
then I kind of stick to this sentence, to this phrase, because we supposed to sleep a third of our lives. If we sleep 8 hours a night, it's a third of our lives, because it's a third of our days.
Yeah.
However, we're pushing it back all the time because we need to fill our days with more things.
Yeah.
Work taking a lot of time during the day, and then we have our social time, our self-care time, our family time. So we push the sleep back.
Yeah.
However, when we sleep, it's when our brain and body digests everything that has happened during the day.
So you need that.
Especially if you're into, if you have responsibilities, if you're into a creative environment, you need your brain to be fully restored to be able to function at your best the day after.
I never thought about it like that. I'm guessing, but I can't think many people sleep 8 hours.
No, I think the average in the UK is around 6.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't all need the same sleep, and it depends on the time, on what's going on in our world as well.
And that's of course, and that's why it's been interesting doing this, filling in this this spreadsheet, is because I have noticed the direct correlation between how much I'm sleeping and then what my energy levels are.
Right.
And for me, I've noticed that I'll eat worse if I haven't done yoga, is a pattern I've noticed, for example.
Right.
Because yoga kind of, it gives me that that time to meditate whilst, it's like a moving meditation.
Yeah.
But when my children are staying with me, that
you
it's
can't
not
fit
an option
in the morning routine.
in the morning. But do I do it in the evening when they've gone to bed? Well, no, because Netflix and a bag of M&Ms, like so it's like, hang on a minute, where are my priorities here?
Yeah.
And then also the other thing is, like a pattern for me I've noticed is I have broken sleep if I've had a coffee in the evenings, even if it's decaf. Because I'm in my 40s and I wake up needing to go to the toilet in the night, well, that breaks your sleep.
Yeah.
So and that's a pattern as well. So it's about, okay, I've done the kind of the dull work of filling in this spreadsheet in a regimented way for 2 weeks, but the analysis of it now is quite interesting. But the key bit to have an impact is well, what changes am I going to make?
How do I make a new habit? Out of it. Definitely. Yeah.
So it's in terms of things like what people can do then, how we're relating this back to burnout, doing something like a diary can help.
Yeah.
To try and identify.
It's a very good
things.
idea, actually. Yeah. Just trying to identify what makes you happy as well. Because we just kind of the Sunday blues or the Monday morning sickness should not happen if you have something to look forward to on a Monday.
Yeah.
So if you notice, for example, like for me, going to work at the end of this period in Paris, I knew I was going to go away, so motivation was very, very low, and I was less involved in all the projects and stuff. Obviously, it was tough to wake up on Monday mornings, but then I had my dance class on Monday evening. I was very, very looking forward to it.
Okay.
So it made it easier.
Gave it that balance.
So if you have in your day, you have something you're looking forward to.
Yeah.
Just have lunch with a friend, for example.
It
can help you get out of bed, be more productive as well, because you want at noon you want to just close your laptop and go to see a friend.
Yeah, I think these are really good ideas, and it's backed up with when I actually agreed, reluctantly to take time off when I was really at my worst with depression. My GP, or it was actually the psychotherapist, was saying, stop reading self-help books. Stop trying to intellectualize your way out of this. You're trying to say, right, this is what's wrong, this is what I'm going to do to fix it, and then I'm going to try and fix it. I'll be back next week, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to go and find the things that you find fun. So it's interesting you backing that up there. And I said, yeah, but then I'm just going to feel the guilt of I'm playing golf when everyone's at work. And he was like, but, you've just said you've thought about ending your life. You're not going to be here if you keep going down the route you were doing. Yeah. So you need to go and find the things that relax you and that give you that kind of fun factor in your life. So that works on that level as well in terms of how to stop yourself going towards burnout in, putting it into your life already while you're at work.
Yeah, I would add as well, trying to find time to do nothing, which is quite challenging for very active people.
Yeah.
But if I take the example of my mom, for example, she was hyperactive at work, hyperactive at home, hyperactive in her activities, doing a lot of crafting stuff. Mm-hmm. She never stopped. So even though she had her healthy coping mechanism with friends and family and her own hobbies, she just never stopped. And this is what actually made it worse. So having time to do nothing, switching off your phone, not even going for a walk, just sit down and do nothing, is scary for very active people.
Very scary.
Because you have to think. And when you have to think, you don't really want to see what's in there. You kind of...
Well, I'm desperate to do a podcast one day about meditation, properly about meditation. But it's like when I started doing any kind of meditation and sitting down, even then I didn't understand, for the first few sessions of like a mindfulness course I went on, I didn't understand the aspects of meditation that is trying to kind of go outside of who you are and looking back in at yourself. Mm-hmm. So you're appreciating that a thought is not real, and like I say, you can get really in depth with it, and some people will be going, what's he talking about? Mm-hmm. But it's that the real, the proper switch off time is if a negative thought comes into your head or a positive thought comes into your head, it's just a thought. Yeah. It's not the truth.
Let it go.
It's just but for months and months, or maybe even years, I was like, what are they talking about? Let it go. What? But it really can change your life, and I don't do it as much as I would like to, and as much as I perhaps should. But it can be life-changing, and having that time to yourself. So the thing, being aware of the people listening to this, do it. You have to do it. You can't just know it. You can't just hear it and understand that this works for other people. You have to try it.
Yeah.
And practically everyone I've ever spoken to who's just started meditating, even if it's at the Healthy Minds peer-to-peer support group that I'm part of, we have a meditation at the end. For 10 minutes, and people always come up to me, I can't do it, and I'm like, listen, nobody can do it. Nobody can do the it that you're talking about, but at the same time, everyone can do meditation. You can just
and
sit
it doesn't
there.
have to. It doesn't have to be very specific. You don't need a specific app or anything. Just think sitting down and switching off.
Yeah.
Starting with just 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Try in the morning before eating your breakfast. Try doing nothing.
Yeah.
And see. You have 2 minutes in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think. But it's just it helps to slow down, and it would help people to kind of realize that there's more to life than the work
Yeah.
they're in, and then the kind of crazy pattern of life we're into.
I think that's really powerful. The other thing you talked about there was about having lunch with, arranging to have lunch with somebody you like. That ticks two boxes in terms of connecting with people.
Yeah.
And also what you eat.
Yeah, nutrition.
So they're pretty huge as well.
Yeah, the relationship between sleep and nutrition is key as well, because if you're sleep deprived, your body is going to crave sugar, just to cheer you up, to make sure that your blood sugar levels are higher, because you need more energy, because you didn't rest enough, so your energy levels are low at the beginning of the day. So but if you start eating sugar, then you would need to eat sugar all day.
Otherwise, you're going to have the crash.
Yeah. So it kind of obviously makes you, you need to make sure that you get enough sleep and that you eat healthy.
Yeah.
But then obviously it can be overwhelming as well. I'm just mindful of all the people who are listening here thinking, well, so I need to do yoga, I need to do meditation, I need to eat healthy, and I need to sleep 8 hours, and
all by next week.
All by next week. So I usually, whenever I share my experience, I usually end up with just live, like take it easy. And the change, it takes 3 to 4 weeks to build up a new habit. Just start small, pick up one thing. It can be adding 30 minutes sleep. If you sleep 6 hours, just move it to 6:30. Can just be a good start, and then do it for 3 weeks and probably change.
Add
afterwards.
Something else in. Yeah. Bit by bit. It's a very good advice actually, and it is. I do think those things they're the same things for prevention as for if you're already there.
Yeah.
You know that it is about building one of these things in, and then just taking your time. You know, you're going to be here for a long time, hopefully. So it's about just building one of these things in and not thinking, I have to be this perfect machine that eats boring food and has to go running when I hate running. You know,
exactly.
Do something. Okay, try and find an exercise you enjoy. If it's a team sport, or if you want, you know, there are lots of different ways of exercising and getting your heart rate up. And addiction, I think, is an incredibly difficult one in terms of, because people don't realise about some things that they're even addicted. Like you say, to social media, to sugar, you know, or alcohol, or cigarettes, or
to work. I say burnout as well is just a symptom of a work addiction. We call people workaholic, don't we?
Yeah.
So,
how many other aholics are there? You know, there's alcoholics. Workaholics, you know,
and work. It's just if there is a word for it, it means that there's a society. I would not say issue, but a society pattern or model around this.
Good point. Yeah.
So if you think you're workaholic, and I am one, I have to say.
Right.
So this pregnancy forces me to stop and slow down, which is very difficult, but it's a good lesson actually.
Yes. Yeah.
There's one thing that I would recommend is try to say no, and see it as, because people who burn out have the tendency to be people who take over too many responsibilities,
right?
Too many things.
Okay.
So this new project is coming up in the team. Who is in? I'm in, and then it's always this same person who's going to take over the new responsibilities. So there's a personality type, maybe. Probably.
Yes. Yeah.
But actually, if you say no to something, it's the opportunity to say yes to something else. So don't see saying no as, I'm missing out something, but see it as an opportunity to say yes to something else that makes more sense now, maybe for your career or your personal life, that makes you happier.
Yeah.
Or that makes you just having the balance that you're actually looking for. That's
interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that think, I've got to be part of that, I'm missing out. I need to get myself in that position so I can look better to other people, or, you know, there's a lot of pressures in terms of that. Okay, I'm conscious of the time, and I'd really like to just finish off really by talking about the other work you do. So tell me a little bit about Leeds Wellbeing Week.
Yeah, so Leeds Wellbeing Week is a wellbeing festival. It started last year during the spring in 2017. The idea behind at the beginning was to see if there was a wellbeing market in Leeds, if companies were ready for it. And actually the answer is yes, so it's good. The awareness is growing, and employers and employees are aware that they need to go on the wellbeing path. And now it's a festival that runs twice a year, and that is about raising awareness around well-being in the workplace, in the public space, and putting the light on all the great well-being initiatives that are going on in the city.
Yeah.
So the last edition last week, we had people doing yoga classes, personal development classes. We had a mindathlon, which is a mindful triathlon with the 5K run, yoga and meditation. A big event called Find Happiness in Your Workplace as well, organized by Mind It, which is my company who helps to bring well-being initiatives in the workplace. And during this Find Happiness in Your Workplace, the idea was to show all the people attending that well-being is easy.
Okay.
That you can start with so we had 4 workshops around listening, nutrition, sleep, and exercising.
Right. Okay.
It was a bit of chair yoga. So the idea was just to say, okay, look, we have had 4 sessions of 15 minutes. It's not that much, so you can actually try to start implementing this in your workplace yourself.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fantastic thing you're doing. It was like you were top of my list of people to talk to on this podcast. So yeah, that's great. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to speak to you and find out more about what you do?
Yeah, the best is to go on the website. It's www.mind-it.co.uk. And there's all the information to contact me there, as well as all the workshops that we provide in companies.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you to you lot for listening. And I hope you've got a lot out of that one. And thank you ever so much to Lucille. I'll look forward to inviting you on the podcast again.
Sure.
Cool. Take care, guys. Excellent.